as you might guess, it's pretty humbling. It's fun to go in with them, but still humbling in the sense it's not something you think about while you're growing up, while you're in the business. That's not in your head.
Yeah, you heard it. Coach Pop is a humble Hall of Famer in big board sports. Good evening, everybody, and welcome live to the home of basketball right here in Springfield, Massachusetts. We're here for the 2023 Basketball Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony going down Saturday night. It is going to be awesome. It's a star-studded class for sure. You have Tony Parker, Greg Popovich, Becky Hammond, D. Wade, Dirk, Pau Gasol, just to name a handful. Pop is the only NBA coach in history to spend 25-plus years with one franchise, and his 1,536 total wins, regular season and playoffs, are the most of any NBA coach in history. Here's what Pop said back in April about getting his call to the Hall.
When people would say Hall of Fame, to me, that always and still does means Red Holtzman, Red Auerbach, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. To me, that's Hall of Fame. And you put my name in that crowd, and that's the SAT answer, like which one doesn't fit kind of thing. And I'm not trying to be humble, that's a fact. And they let you in. So I'm thankful, but mostly humbled and a little teeny bit embarrassed because you never think you're worthy for something like that.
And Coach Pop will be presented by the Big Three and David Robinson. That's it for me. Let's send it back to San Antonio where Mary is talking SAFC. Mary?
Thank you, Larry. Newly named League Player of the Month of July, Tani Oluwaseyi and San Antonio FC earned an electrifying win at Phoenix Rising FC last weekend. Tani, the MLS loanee, continued his record-setting month by scoring the game winner in stoppage time in SAFC's 2-1 victory. But the win was clouded by allegations. During the match, one of San Antonio's coaches allegedly spoke a racially charged insult towards fans. Today, head coach Alan Marcina responded to the alleged incident.
As a club, we have completed the internal investigations and appropriate actions have been put into place. There is racism doesn't belong in our sport.
It is unclear whether the USL has opened an investigation. SAFC will next play at the New Mexico United Saturday nights. The Central Catholic High School community and many others mourning the passing of longtime head coach Mike Santiago. Santiago has served as Central Catholic's football coach since 2017, and prior to that was at the helm of Incarnate Word Football. The school saying in a statement today, Coach Santiago was an inspiration to all. He will be deeply missed. Coach Santiago leaves us at age 67.
Welcome back. All right, so it's just about that time. Families are getting in that mode. It's back to school time, and we know how important it is to make sure that our kids' mental health is okay to start the school year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we're going to discuss with Dr. Abigail Talley with UT Health San Antonio. She's a child and adult psychiatrist. Doctor, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm so pleased to be here.
There's a lot going on right now, a lot going on in the world. Back to school time is upon us. What should parents focus on right now?
So with going back to school, there's always been back to school jitters, right? That kind of the anticipatory anxiety of going back to school. And so what I tell parents is make sure that you have certain things in mind when you're discussing going back to school and the emotions that can come up. First of all, be optimistic about it. So make sure that they know that if these emotions come up, if kiddos get anxious about this, that this is a problem that's manageable. I also tell parents, be empathic. Some of the fears and some of the worries are going to seem a little bit illogical, and that's okay. We have to put ourselves in our children's shoes and kind of think of what it was like to be a child at that time. And then I also tell parents to destigmatize it. So that means make sure that your child knows that their worries, their anxieties, their fears are not a disappointment to you and are in no way making you feel upset, angry, uncomfortable.
Yeah, nor are they the only ones having these feelings.
Absolutely, absolutely. These are a very widely spread and widely held fear.
So back to school jitters. I mean, we even remember we'd get nervous like the day before. It'd be hard to go to bed and get adequate sleep because you were nervous about seeing your friends and getting into that mode again. That's always been a thing, but now it seems to be more intense since the pandemic.
Yes, I think that's actually kind of been a rising trend. A lot of times kiddos are more used to having school at home, homebound school, and so maybe there's a little bit more anxiety now when we're going back to an actual brick and mortar school.
A lot of this is being involved with your kids, talking to your kids. How do we break the ice? What do we need to be asking our children when it comes to school or the anxieties that they feel, things like that?
I think that's where those kind of key points come in that I talked about briefly. Make sure you open up the conversation. You want your child to know that it's okay to talk about feelings with you. And sometimes it's nice to also give them some tips and tricks. You can also say, hey, sometimes I use these myself, and this might help you when you're starting your first day of school. Things like deep breathing exercises, sometimes progressive muscle relaxation. I'll always go through those techniques with my children when I see them in therapy cases.
Is it also letting them know that not to discount what they're feeling, I guess, as a parent? Like if somebody says, I think the sky's going to fall, not to say that's never going to happen, but just to talk through it?
Absolutely, that empathic piece of it. Put yourself back in their shoes, maybe when you were their age and what fears you had.
Could we talk about that, the difference? Because there's always a generational divide, right? When parents speak with their children, because we do have different concerns. We have the internet, we have social media, we have all of that stuff. If you could talk to parents and say, consider this, what are some things that you hear directly from children that you want parents to think about when they speak to their children?
Wonderful. Yes. So we know that generational changes occur, but we do know that there's certain normative fears that children go through, and it's a pattern that we've seen throughout time. We know that as babies and younger children, we worry about separation anxiety. We know that as we get to more of a school age, we start to worry about things like natural disasters. And then we get to the 6-year-olds and up, and we start to have those fears about school, peer rejection, all of those fears. And so that's something that I would want parents to keep in mind is remember that this is a spectrum that is it's a normal process as a child goes through life. And there is no life free from anxiety.
You talked about stigma, and there's even a stigma around getting help. I mean, I always tell people the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. And so do you have to battle that too with both parents and kids, knowing that somebody comes to talk to you?
Absolutely. I think that whenever we're talking with our children, we're also dealing with our own kind of thoughts or feelings about what we're discussing. And if we ourselves deal with anxiety, when we're talking about our child anxiety, that's going to come up. Those feelings are going to come up.
But at what point do you say, okay, we need to seek professional help?
That's a great question. So there are certain things that I tell parents to look out for. First of all, changes in sleeping pattern. Now, there's always that right before school, that night before. Kiddos are going to have a hard time falling asleep, right? But if a child is having a really hard time, like several hours trying to go to sleep every night, or waking up in the middle of the night and coming and waking you up, that's one thing to look out for. If they're talking about the stressor, about going back to school, a significant amount, like there's a huge uptick in the amount of time they're spending talking about it, that means that's a window into their internal world. They're thinking about it a lot. We need to watch out for that too. If they start to withdraw from family and friends or activities that they liked to do, or they just don't seem quite as talkative, we need to keep an eye out for that. And if it gets severe, it might be time to bring kiddo in for a little bit of extra help. And also if there's any huge behavioral changes, that's sometimes when we need to escalate and ask for some more professional help.
I appreciate you coming on here because those are such valuable tips, I think, for both parents and children at home. And we're going to continue this conversation. It doesn't end right here. We actually have a live stream with Myra Arthur that's going to come up at 7 o'clock, back to school, nurturing minds as we go back to school. We have a full panel. Some of them in the newsroom, in the studio with us right now. And so I'm excited about what we are offering tonight. A chance to answer some of your questions and maybe put aside some of the anxieties when it comes to going back to school.
Yeah, because not just kids, it's also parents, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're doing a good job with your kids. And the town hall is something that we're going to be streaming on all of our platforms, and it's going to start at 7 p.m. But we still have plenty of news here on the 6 o'clock. So join us back after the break.
Dr. Talley, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
San Antonio police are investigating after a man shot a suspected car burglar at an apartment complex. It happened near Loop 1604 in O'Connor Road. Police say the man confronted the suspected burglar. The suspect then allegedly threatened that man before the shooting. It's unclear if they could face any charges.
Now, San Antonio police are looking for 4 suspects involved in an ATM robbery. Happened at a convenience store on Jones Maltzberger near the quarry. A witness says the suspects drove a truck through the store and then stole the ATM. Police are looking into whether this is connected with other ATM robberies that have happened over the last few weeks.
The city leaders want animal care services to have a $27 million budget next year. The money in the proposal includes 15 new animal care officer spots for investigating bite cases and ensuring owners with dangerous dogs are complying with precautions.
And public works crews continuing to try and fix a sinkhole on New Sulphur Springs Road. City leaders say the sinkhole formed around 9:30 last night. Public Works expects the work to be finished by Friday around 5 p.m. And that is your 60-second recap.
All right, another day, another record high broken. Adam Caskey.
Yeah, 106. That's what we hit today. That's a new record by 1 degree, and actually our 7th consecutive record tying or record breaking day here in San Antonio. 104 right now. We gradually cool off 9 o'clock, 95 midnight. We're at 84. We'll talk about the ERCOT forecast, their outlook for supply and demand on our power grid, and how many more records will fall in just a bit.
All righty, so welcome back. We all know that it's hot, but we're also talking about a drought, and it seems like the drought is worse than we thought.
Yeah, it's getting worse, but compared to last year at this time, it's not as bad because we actually had some spring rainfall, but we keep falling deeper into drought, and I've got a comparison for you in just a bit. I want to look at our temperature trend. We've had 7 consecutive record-tying or record-breaking days now, so in a row, and we should make that 9 by Saturday. But really, if you're keeping track at home, it looks like 6 of the next 7 days will have record-tying or record-breaking high temperatures. And that brings us to ERCOT and the supply and demand outlook. And it's going to be close. We should have enough energy, but as usual, this has been the trend of this summer where the peak supply and peak demand get pretty close there in the afternoon and early evening, especially at the time frame when the sun really gets low and right around sunset when we start to lose a lot of that solar power that's being generated. Okay, here's the new drought monitor. Almost 70% of Texas in drought. Worst of it right here in our backyard, especially up into the hill country. This exceptional area, the darkest spot on your screen that's been there for quite a while. But other parts of our area have dried out even more and fallen deeper into drought. Let's compare this to 7 weeks ago and notice how much better it was, especially along the coastal plain east of town. Now let's fade back into the current drought monitor and you see those dark reds spreading outward, even into Bexar County and San Antonio now. So we keep drying out. A few showers far north of us in parts of north central Texas. They've been popping up this afternoon and evening. We're not expecting them to drift our way. And West Texas getting a few showers popping up as well. But we've got the upper level high, the big blue H, the heat heights overhead, and it's going to continue to dominate our weather pattern. And our forecast stays dry as a result. Nothing but sunshine underneath this, for us at least. Other parts of Texas on the edges closer to the state line, it could get a few showers, but by and large, we're going to be dry, and we keep drying out. Our grass, our brush, the vegetation's very dry. We have seen, even in San Antonio, how quickly a fire can start and spread. And we're going to have the high fire danger in terms of our weather conditions for the foreseeable future here. Dry grass, low afternoon relative humidity. Breezy south wind at times up to 30 miles per hour. The worst parts of Texas in the extreme, which is the highest risk, just to the north of us, just north of Lake Buchanan there even, with the extreme risk. Around here, we're high to very high for our fire risk. Doesn't mean the weather's going to start a fire, but a fire can start easily from just a little spark and then spread quickly. Tomorrow is just like today, 80 in the morning, 93 at noon, 106 for our high temperature, and that would tie the record for the day. Gonzales tomorrow, 105. Cotulla, Laredo, 109. 106 in Castroville, Leon Springs, and Timberwood Park at 104. Nothing but sunshine here for the foreseeable future. Mornings near 80, afternoons between 104 to 106. And I don't really see this trend breaking for probably another 2 weeks. That's the latest I'm seeing. Last week, I introduced you to
Your baby.
my baby.
Yeah.
The mercurial barometer, mercurial barometer, very generously gifted to me. So I wanted to share it with everybody. These are vintage and some really the original ways to measure the barometric pressure. And in weeks ahead, we'll get into how you actually read it because you have to take several adjustments. But I've always wanted one of these. And our wonderful viewer, Sherry Wood of San Antonio, saved 2 of them from going in the trash. She's worked at St. Mary's University for a few decades, and as they were renovating a few buildings, they were getting rid of stuff. She said, whoa, I think I can find a good home for those mercurial barometers. So I dropped off a homemade thermometer for Sherry just the other day. So thank you to Sherry and St. Mary's University for that. And because they're mercury, disposing of them can actually be expensive because it's some kind of special procedure, you know, and so this is a good repurposing. Okay, now let's get to our winner for today. Our thermometer winner. Oh, don't do this to me. There we go. I was going to say, come on. All right, our thermometer winner out of San Antonio. We've got Sandra Clonch of San Antonio. Sandra, I just sent you an email. Go to KSAT.com/thermometer to enter the drawing.
Congratulations, Sandra.
And thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, absolutely. The Buzz is coming up next. To the Buzz, an Alaskan biker gaining notoriety because he likes to ride backwards. May seem weird.
It is.
But Will Walker says it's actually easier and good for quad muscles. Walker first started riding bicycles this way 10 years ago. Now he just finished a 500-mile bike ride across the state of Iowa.
His neck and his back really have to be killing him. All right. So he was with 30,000 other riders, but he was the only one to do it while looking over his shoulder. Now, Walker recorded his journey, which could be a world record. He said that he submitted it to the Guinness World Records for longest distance riding backwards on a bike. Who knows? He may get it. Now, feast your eyes on that. Yes, a sculpture of a cow made from 500 pounds of butter. The butter cow, as we're calling it, was unveiled yesterday at the Illinois State Fair. The butter cow has been an unofficial icon of the fair since the 1920s and a favorite among fairgoers.
Yeah, it took sculptor Sarah Pratt's 5 days to create this life-size cow. She used unsalted butter, by the way.
Okay.
The iconic sculpture will be on display for the duration of the fair. You see the model there?
Yeah.
Also well done. He's literally milking it.
Oh, Steve. Please, okay, we're going to stick around. Stick around for more of Steve's dad jokes after the break.
In just a few minutes, we're kicking off a live stream focused on mental health during this back-to-school season.
Such an important topic. It's not just for students, but it's also for adults, too. Our Myra Arthur is hosting the live stream in our KSAT newsroom.
Steve, Stephanie, I was at my own Meet the Teacher event tonight. That's why I wasn't in the studio with you at 6 o'clock. Everybody knows this is such a hectic time of year. So as you make sure you've got all the supplies, you're figuring out the carpool line, don't forget about how critically important mental health is for your student. Parents, too, teachers as well, all school staff. Coming up at 7 o'clock, we're talking with teachers, a counselor, a psychiatrist, and a student. We have our panelists, some of them already here, ready to go. We're talking about ways to nurture your child's mental health and how to get help if you need it. Join us at 7 on all our streaming platforms.